Hey guys, how's it going? So today we're going to LeetCode for 16.8 valid IP addresses. Given a string IP, return IPv4 if IP is valid IPv4 address. IPv6 if IP is a valid IPv6 address, or neither if IP is not a correct IP of any type. So a valid IPv4 address is an IP in the form like this, where xi is between 0 to 255, and xi cannot contain any leading zeros. For example, this is valid, but because here it contains leading zeros, so it's invalid. And here it contains leading zeros, so it's invalid. And here, because it's not in the correct form, it's invalid. So basically 0 is okay, but any number after 0 is not correct. So that's IPv4. IPv6 is an IP in the form here. So basically 8 parts. And in each part, the length should be 1 to 4. And xi is a hexadecimal string, which may contain digits, lowercase English letter and uppercase English letter. Leading zeros are allowed in xi. So for example here, it's a valid IPv6 address where this are invalid. So let's see why it's invalid. Here, you can see that in this part there's nothing, so it's invalid. And here, the requirement is 1 to 4 lengths, but this is 5, so it's invalid. Valid IPv4, valid IPv6, neither. Because remember, 0 to 255, right? Neither. Because nothing here. Neither, because IPv4 only 0 to 255. This is not a digit. Okay, it is labeled medium, but it's actually quite easy. So basically, I put my like a code here. So basically, you have a helper function to check if it's valid IPv4 address, and you have a helper function that check whether it's valid IPv6 address. And in your main function, if it's valid IPv4 address, then return IPv4. If it's valid IPv6 address, return IPv6. Else, return neither, right? So how to write this helper function? So it's actually quite easy. So basically, if we want to check whether it's valid IPv4, then if the string is empty, return false, right? So if not IP, means if length of IP is equal to 0, return false. Then we split. We call the Python's built-in split function. Basically, it will give us an array of 4 parts. So it will become here. It will become, let's use this example. It will give us 4 string. 172, 16, 255, and 1. So the split function will give us this. So if the length of this is not 4, because remember IPv4 has 4 parts, right? If it's not 4 parts, return false. Okay, at this point, it is 4 parts, but so we go through each part. If not P, so what does this mean? So if we have a string like ... then it will give us 4 empty string. So basically, it will give us, the parts will be empty, 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 empty. right? This is 4 parts, so it will pass here. But each part is empty, so we have to return false because IPv4, each part should be 0 to 255. This part check whether if the first number is 0, but its length is greater than 1, it means it has leading 0. We return false. At this time, we check whether it's digit. So it will its digit basically check whether it's a number. Note that in Python, like plus 188, this because it has a plus sign, Python's is digit will return false. So only when it's a positive number without any signs, it will return true. If it's a negative number, this will also return false. So if it's not a digit, then we return false. And then we check whether it's like 0 to 55. If it's not, then return false. After the iteration, if any of it doesn't return false, then we will return true. Okay, so this is valid IPv4. IPv6, how do we check it? The same, like first of all, we check whether it's an empty string. If it's not, then we split it. And note that IPv6 is like separated by column. And if it's not 8 parts, return false. If it's each part, any part is empty, return false. And remember, we have to be 1 to 6, 1 to 4. So if it's greater than 4, it's more than 4 lengths, then return false. And then we have to check whether it's a hexadecimal string. So actually, we can just check for